Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this careers workshop. Today, our presenter is Chris Stephens, and he's going to talk about career planning. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to everyone who's joining us, both in person and over Zoom. Hopefully, we have a good workshop for you today. So my name is Chris Stephens. I'm a career coach with Career Catchers. We're a nonprofit organization in Montgomery County that provides one-on-one employment coaching and workforce development services. And we're partnered with the Ignite Hub to come in and work with you all on that. So big thanks to the Ignite Hub for having me here today. I do want this to be an interactive presentation, so if you're with us virtually, please feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat, and the staff can direct it to my attention. If you're here in person, feel free to raise your hand, and I can just give you a call on you. So I do want to start off by asking questions. Today's topic is career planning and sort of specifically setting achievable goals. But I do want to just start off by asking, career planning, right? It's sort of a nebulous concept. What do we think of when we think of career planning? What are some things that go, that might go into that? Any ideas? Mm-hmm. Training. Okay. Yep. What kinds of training you would need to advance the career? Absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm. What career we're going to? Absolutely. That's sort of the first step, right? And we'll kind of get into that. Exactly. You have to sort of have an idea of where you want to end up in order to be effective. Anything else? Yeah. So right, career planning, encompasses a lot of stuff, not just sort of where you begin and but what you have to do along the way to get to your end goal. Next slide, please. So basically, career planning is a process that allows you to identify your personal strengths and interests so that you can discover professional opportunities that you will both enjoy and excel in, right? There's a little bit to unpack here. This isn't just about, career planning isn't just about saying, oh, I want to sort of, do X, Y, and Z career. How do I get there? It's about sort of just it's all about self-assessment and figuring out sort of where your interests, where your strengths lie, and how you can apply those to your chosen career field, right? Ultimately, following along this career path, you want to end up doing something that you enjoy and can excel in and grow in. The things I'm talking about today are applicable to any career, but we're here at the Ignite Hub, so I will be using sort of more IT-focused examples and things like that. The other thing I do want to emphasize is this career planning, it's a process. That's very important. This isn't something that you just do once, at the beginning of your career path, and that's it. It is an ongoing process. It is a continuous process of self-assessment and reevaluation, and things can change, right? Life happens. You may find yourself going off on tangents. But that's okay. That's all part of the that's all part of the career planning process. Next slide, please. So when we're talking about starting the process of career planning, the first step is self-assessment. We'll get into that in a minute. But the first step is to identify your interests, your strengths, and your skills that are relevant to, in this case, the IT field. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to come in with a lot of experience in IT or skills, things like that. You can train for, as we mentioned. What's more important is more about sort of your interests and sort of what you like to do. We're also going to talk about setting up your short and long-term goals as you proceed along your career path, right? The key to any successful sort of career plan is having these goals that you're working toward accomplishing. Given that we're talking about IT, as a career coach, I have a lot of folks come to me and say, I'm looking to either start a career or maybe switch into a career in IT, and I say that's great. Let's do that. IT is a very broad sort of field. What specific specialization, what area are you looking? Do you want to sort of focus on in that field. You can do things like software development, cybersecurity, data analytics. The list goes on and on. So, if you are sort of just starting to look at IT or maybe trying to switch into it, that's sort of one of the first questions you're gonna ask yourself, and we'll get into that in a little bit too. The other thing about career planning is, we want to focus on sort of building a career versus just having a job. I think a lot of times when we talk about employment and career planning, we tend to use the terms career and job interchangeably, right? And that's not quite accurate. Having that job is part of your career plan, and ideally, you're in a position where you can grow and learn new skills and get experience. But having a career is taking that longer term view, right? And seeing how your current job or a job that you're looking to start can sort of advance you to your end goal of having a career that you enjoy. And that's really the key here is to think about career planning. We have to start at the end, right, and go backwards. You want to think, where do you want to end up, and then work back from there and kind of figure out what steps do you need to take to get to where you want to end up. Next slide, please. So it all starts with self-assessment, right? Why are you sort of choosing the IT field in the first place, right? Is it something that you are good at? Maybe you've done some coding exercises or projects or things like that. Maybe you have friends who really like it and have told you about it. Why do you want to get into this field in the first place? Is this something that you think you would like to do? That's really the first question, and hopefully the answer is yes, right? What are you good at? Are you good at sort of problem solving and sort of the logical skills that go into that? If so, great. If not, that's fine. You can always train for that. But is this something that you feel like you're bringing some of your own skills and experience into? And it's not just sort of the career field in general, but specific, what kind of work environment you're looking for, right? This is where values come in. What are your sort of core values? What sort of things do you want to sort of dedicate your professional life to? Are there certain causes, projects, types of work that you feel you're committed to and can really sort of feel good putting all this time and investment into? Great. If the answer is yes, you're probably on the right track. On the other side of that, are there some work environments? Are there certain companies? Are there certain, again, types of work that you feel like you wouldn't be comfortable doing? That information is just as valuable, right? And you want to, you sort of want to figure out these things for yourself as you're going into the field, so that you have a good idea of where to set your goals and what things to pursue to make sure that it does align with your values and your strengths and your interests and all of that. Now, some of this will be informed from your past experience, right? You can ask yourself, what kind of jobs have you done in the past that you liked or didn't like? It doesn't have to be related to IT. One of our previous workshops a few months ago was on transferable skills, and even if you have no IT experience, you've probably done something in the past that brings those relevant skills, right? Customer service, as an example. So what about your previous work did you like or not like, and is that something that you either want to sort of pursue or avoid going forward as you're making your career plan? The other part of this is with any discussion around jobs and careers and things like that, obviously, ideally you're pursuing your passion, but we all have responsibilities and things like that, life, considerations that come up. So part of this also is what do you need out of your job, out of your career, right? Now, a lot of times we think about that in financial terms. How much money do I need to be making to do what I need to do, right? What sort of work-life balance am I looking for? What kind of work environment am I looking to do? Is it something where I'm, good sitting in an office all day? Maybe you want to be a little more hands-on with people. Either one is fine. But that is something that you want to, figure out for yourself at the beginning of this process. What are your sort of personal requirements, and what kind of environment do you need to be successful, right? Once you have all that, then what are some job titles and things like that you want to explore. At the start of your career planning process, you don't have to have everything locked down. This is a time for exploration, right? Maybe you want to pursue cybersecurity and want to look into that. Great, you can always change later. It's okay to sort of explore, try new things, and see if they're for you. Comments or questions so far? Yeah, go ahead. You mean like
potential cybersecurity data? Is there anything that deals with data center?
Yeah, so sort of data analysis and things like that would fall under the broader sort of IT umbrella. We will be getting into the specific fields in just a little bit, so I'll address that when we get there. But yeah, I mean but I am glad you sort of reiterated that, because IT really is very broad, and there's a lot of stuff that goes, a lot of different specialties under it, but also it ties into sort of every other career field, right? If you're in the healthcare field, they need IT. If you're in the construction field, they need IT. Hospitality field, they need IT. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. Next slide, please. So here we go. Yeah, so I mentioned the part about finding a specialization as you're starting out on your IT journey. There's so many different ways to start, but I've got a couple of roadmaps here that I'd like to show you. This particular one is from CompTIA. Certainly not the only roadmap or career path, but I like this one because it breaks things down pretty well. Let's take your example for data centers, right? If you look on the right side here, one of the sort of sub-specializations is storage and data. So we can kind of see how you might progress along a sort of a sample career path in using these CompTIA certifications. And it sort of breaks down from beginner to intermediate to advanced to expert, right? So taking the storage and data path, you can see that a good start there would be taking perhaps the CompTIA IT fundamentals course, right? General, a good basic intro to the field, and from there you can move forward. Another sort of entry level certification, I guess I would say, would be perhaps the CompTIA A+, right? Once you've got those basics, that's where you can sort of get your entry level jobs in the field, and from there gain a little bit of experience. Once you've got that, we can move on to maybe the CompTIA Server Plus, right? We can see that under the intermediate section. And you'll notice there's a lot of overlap between some of the different fields here. Eventually you can keep going with the CCNP and then the OCM certifications. So the good thing about the IT field is a lot of times they do have a pretty good path that you can follow to get these certifications. Now, it's not all certifications. A lot of places want experience. They may require you to have a degree of some kind in IT. But a lot of times this is a good place to start. I also do want to emphasize that it's not necessarily entirely linear. You may want to start out, you may want to go into, let's say, the data centers, data analysis. And it may take a little bit of time to get there. Maybe you have the fundamentals course, maybe you have CompTIA, but for whatever reason, you're not finding a lot of openings, or not hearing back on interviews. There's a few factors that go in there, but it's okay to not necessarily jump into your preferred specialization right away. A lot of times, someone starting out may use their CompTIA to get a help desk position, right? You can use that to get some IT experience, and then from there, sort of make the shift over to data with some further training and education and things like that. So it's not always necessarily linear, but just having something like this roadmap can can kind of help you map out what your career progression might be on the education or certification side. And I'll include this on a handout that we're gonna be giving everyone, so you don't need to worry about writing this down or anything. You can also find this on the CompTIA website. I'm not sure actually. Something management. Yeah.
So really, any of those can store data, but any of those certs, it's in that area. You can be used in that area.
Yeah. So if we look sort of towards on the beginner side, you'll see one of the sort of common certifications they recommend for all of these is the IT fundamentals and then the A+. So yeah, there's a lot of the sort of the basics are overlap, and then you can kind of branch out from there for sure. Can you go to the next slide, please? Here's another sample map. I know it's a lot of colors. Hopefully everyone can see it. This one isn't so much focused on the certifications. This one is more on sort of the job titles. And I like this one because it gives you, again, sample job titles based on sort of what you're looking for at the early, mid, late, and sort of advanced career stages. And if you look at the bottom, you can get sort of an estimated salary as well. That's a little bit of a different discussion. There's a lot of factors that go into salary, but it gives you a good sort of baseline, right? So again, at the at the beginning, you may start off with an internship or something like that. Help desk intern, desktop support intern, sort of help desk technician. That's a lot of times where some of these places start. Network technician, that kind of thing. And then as we move forward, you start getting a little more specialized, right? Systems administrator, IT auditor, network security, that kind of thing. And then you start getting into some of the management roles and the software engineering roles, as we move sort of a little more down the career path. Now, this is all just samples. Everyone's career can take different paths based on what you're bringing to the table. But again, this is a good way to sort of visualize it and can be a good roadmap when you're sort of setting your goals, right? All right, comments or questions on some of this, and we'll share these graphics with you as well. Yeah, so that would be sort of that would be more on the cyber security side. So again, these are just sort of general titles, so it would depend on the role, but usually determining if there's been any inappropriate accessing of systems and tracking down breaches and things like that.
So it's hardware thing. Security thing is more inside.
Generally, it's software, although there is a hardware component to this as well. So some of that, I believe there are hardware sort of, I guess you'd like sort of physical security technicians as well. So it does depend. Yeah. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. So now that you have an idea of, maybe where you want to specialize in your IT journey, we're going to talk about goal setting, and this part's pretty important, right? So in any sort of career plan, you want to make sure that you set goals for yourself, right? Otherwise, how are you going to know how far you've gotten? How are you going to know how far you've come? Where are you going, right? And we don't really have that without goals. It's important to set both short-term and long-term goals for yourself. Typically, and it varies, but typically short-term goals are things that you can do in pretty quickly, right? Maybe 3 months to a year or so, generally speaking, would be a short-term goal. Long-term goals, when we usually, that would be maybe a few years out, maybe longer. Really depends, right? And you're going to have multiple short and long-term goals. Every long-term goal is going to have multiple short-term goals that that make that up, right? I think you can sort of think of it like a pyramid, right? The long-term goal is at the top, and then all the short-term goals sort of provide that foundation. For instance, if your long-term goal is graduate with a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, a short-term goal or a midterm goal might be first start with an associate's degree in IT at Montgomery College, right? Do 2 years, get some of that knowledge, that experience, and then transfer for a bachelor's program, right? Flexibility is key here, right? As I think everyone knows, life isn't necessarily a straight line. As you're moving toward your goals, life happens, right? Things change, barriers come up, maybe your interests and priorities change, and all of that's fine. But as long as you have a clear sort of long-term goal in mind, you can adapt and change your goals, change the timelines, and that's okay. As long as you sort of have a clear idea of where you want to go, it's okay to be flexible on the way there. It doesn't necessarily have to be linear. Next slide, please. All right, so I don't know if anyone's heard the saying that a goal without a plan is just an idea. Or just a dream even. You can have an idea. I want a career in IT, right? Great. But that's not really a goal, right? There aren't really set steps to get there. It's just an idea at this point. So SMART goals, if any of you ever heard of them, is a tool to basically help you get there and to make that idea, give yourself a plan so that you can make that idea a goal. I'm going to ask anyone in the audience, give me a goal, something that doesn't have to be a personal goal of yours. You could make something up, but someone give me something that could be a goal. Start investing. Okay, sure. Okay, sure. Start investing in retirement. So what is that? So that's great. That's a great example. So what does that actually mean here? That's a good sort of goal and idea, but it's pretty vague, right? So we're going to take a look at the S here on our SMART goals. Something like that, we want to make sure that it's specific, right? So start investing for retirement. How much money do you need to invest for retirement, right? Without that, you're not really going to have a set point. Perhaps, and I'm not an expert on investing, but perhaps what kinds of things do you want to invest in, right? That would be another specific factor that would go into that. So you want to give yourself a clear point where you would have reached that goal. So you want your goals to be as specific as possible, and that's that's where the S comes in. Now, let's say investing for retirement. So sure, let's you've got sort of here, and then you're starting here, trying to get here where you've saved up enough investing to retire. But how do you know how far you've gotten along that path, right? What are some things that you can measure? Depending on your time frame, how will you know if you're making enough progress along the way there? Is it you want to have enough invested or saved up every year? If so, that's great. What are the metrics that you're using to measure this? You need to be able to see how much progress you're making towards your goal, and that's where the M comes in, measurable. Your goals have to be they have to be measurable. Otherwise, it can be pretty easy to get to sort of get not very motivated, right? If you don't seem like you're making any progress towards your goals, that can be that can be a barrier. Now, you want to make sure that the goal is achievable. My goal right now was to become president, let's say. Right, yeah. Now is that very achievable? It could be, perhaps. I'm not, I don't ever tell anyone, no, that's not achievable, don't pursue it. If that's something I feel strongly about, by all means go for it. But from where I am now to becoming president, if I'm on my current trajectory, that's not really achievable. I would have to make a lot of changes in order to have that happen. So to use your the investing for retirement or something, let's go back to the setting a specific amount. If it's I want to become a billionaire through investing or something like that. I mean, maybe, who knows, right? But you want to set something that's sort of achievable in your mind, right? So that's what we talk about when we talk about achievable. Mm-hmm. The R is relevance. So my goal could be to become the president, but is that really relevant to me? Is that even something that I want, right? Is that something I would enjoy doing? And this is kind of where we get back to that self-assessment of what are your interests? What do you enjoy doing? Is this relevant to you? Is that something that would actually be a fulfilling career for me? So that's you want to make sure that it's sort of in line with your eventual goal. A lot of times we hear advice from people of, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And it may not be relevant to us, right? There's oftentimes we get a lot of pressure from other people. Then the advice could be good, but if it's not for you, that's okay. You want to make sure that whatever you're doing is relevant to you, because it means you're going to be invested in spending the time and effort in doing it. Does that make sense to everyone? Yep. Okay. The last thing on here is time, right? So you want to give yourself a time frame. I certainly have, and I think I probably speak for most people listening when I have something I need to do and I say, oh, I'll get to it at some point, right? Do I ever get to it as soon as I want to after saying that? No, probably not. So you want to give yourself a time frame for accomplishing these goals. Otherwise, your long-term goal is just going to be something that's out there, vague, sometime in the future, and you're not really going to be focusing your efforts toward it, right? Same thing with a career plan. It'll happen someday, isn't really a goal. So you want to have a time frame. So to use that investing example again, how many years are you going to give yourself to save up X amount of money, right? 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, and make sure that that's a timeline that works for you. Now, with all of these, things change, right? Say you give yourself 10 years to, invest enough money for retirement, great. If things happen and that has to change a little bit, maybe it happens sooner, maybe it happens later, that's okay. But as long as you have a timeline, that's sort of the important part. Do these SMART goals make sense to everyone? That was a good example with the sort of investment. Anyone else have another goal we could use and kind of work through it using the SMART format? Taking a vacation. Okay, yeah, doesn't necessarily have to be sort of career related. All right, so how would we make taking a vacation more specific? And I'll open this up to everyone. Okay. Yep. So exactly. So specific, right? The first question there would be, right, where do you want to go, right? Yeah. Absolutely. And then again, there's a bit of overlap between categories, but like you said, sort of how much money would that take? Are you using a travel agency? I think I would probably put those under the measurable category. Okay, I want to take a vacation to, say, Hawaii. I'll just make that up. how do I get there? Well, I'm not good at finding, flights or, stuff. I need to use a travel agent, right? So a measurable thing would be, identify a travel agent, get their help to, help me with this vacation. As far as the money thing, achievable, right? Do you have the money saved up that you would need? Is it even a good time to be going to Hawaii? Anything like that. Can you take the time off work? So on. Is it relevant, right? People tell me that Hawaii is nice, but if I'm more of a mountains person, do I even want to, go to a beach in the first place? Maybe I'd enjoy something else, right? Is that relevant to me? And then, time. What, when do you want to take this vacation, and how much time do you need to prepare? So yeah, you can use this smart framework for really anything. It doesn't even have to just be career related. But this is an important part of that goal setting and that career planning. Whatever your career goals are, you do want them to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. All right, next slide, please. So we've talked about sort of the exploratory part of the career planning. Determining your interests, your values, setting up your goals and things like that. Now, how can you actually, turn that into sort of experience and continue working towards your goals? First things first, you'd want to make sure that you have a resume. That's one of the basic tools you'll need as far as looking in a career field, applying for jobs. You want to make a resume sort of highlighting your education, your experience, relevant coursework you have. That can also include unpaid experience like internships or personal projects that you have in in your portfolio. Any skills and things you have like that. Resumes are sort of a whole nother topic. I'm not going to dive into that too deeply here, but you want to make sure that you have a record of what you bring to the table. You can seek out internships or co-op programs, even jobs where you might gain some practical experience, right? A lot of times, we see on those job descriptions, companies are looking for some experience in the field, and if you don't have any direct IT experience, the internships, co-op programs, things like that can be a great way to get experience. Volunteering is also a good way to do that. Plenty of people, look for volunteer, IT folks, website, maintaining a website, things like that. Anything like that is good experience that you can highlight. Especially with IT, there are a lot of opportunities to kind of build your own portfolio that showcase your skills. Different sort of open source projects or personal things you can do. You can design your own website. You can write your own code, things like that, and present that to a potential employer. Now, a lot of times when we talk about IT, we often talk about the hard skills, right? We spend a lot of time talking about the different certifications and things like that, education you'd need. But the sort of hard skills are only part of it. And I think we had another workshop on this, so I won't get too much into it. But you want to make sure that you're developing those soft skills in addition to the hard skills, right? So things like effective communication, teamwork, time management skills. You could be the best coder in X, Y, and Z specialty, but if you don't get along with other people, if you're not good at communicating, if you don't manage your time well, chances are the company might go with a candidate who may not have quite as much experience, but that they can train. If they have more of those soft skills. So I really can't sort of overemphasize the importance of developing your soft skills along with the hard skills. So these sorts of things, looking for opportunities to add to your resume, to gain experience, to work on projects, things like that. These are all things you want to look at as you're progressing down your career plan. It's not just necessarily go to school for X and get Y degree. There's so many other opportunities along with that you want to keep your eyes open for as well. Next slide, please. The other part of career planning is, you got to do the research, like anything else. I think this was touched a little bit on in the last workshop, but you know, how do you know where you're going if you don't know what's involved, right? The good news is there are so many different tools and ways to do your research, especially in the IT field, right? Maybe there's a certain company that you're interested in, right? Go on their website, check out their job board, see what they're looking for, and see what that job requires, right? You could use that to kind of tailor your goals a little bit. Even just looking at at different company websites to see what projects they're working on. Maybe they say a little bit about their culture. All of this is very important, as you're doing your career plan. Professional networking platforms, LinkedIn is sort of the big one. Would definitely recommend, everyone, do a LinkedIn profile. You can find not only jobs there, but, a community of people who are interested in the same things you are and can, give you advice and insight. I always recommend, using your college's career services, and we're partnered with Ignite Hub on some of this, but not only can they offer job placement assistance, but again, they have these connections and experience that can help point you in the right direction. It's so important to research the companies and the jobs and things that you're applying for, because if you get called for an interview, you definitely don't want to be the person who can't really answer, why do you want to work here, right? Why are you interested in this IT field in the first place? And you can it's it's pretty well, I say pretty easy. In a lot of cases, you can practice for things like that. Practice common interview questions. If you have an idea of the types of skills the position demands, you can sort of work on the technical aspects of that, so you're prepared for these interviews. Even if you're not actively interviewing, maybe you're in school and working toward completing your degree, and finding a job is a little ways out. That's fine. You can start all of this now: the research, the practice, just so you can hit the ground running once you're ready. Going back to the soft skills in a little bit, it is very important that you sort of understand the workplace etiquette and professionalism. Again, that's things like communication skills and all of that. Getting along with other people, working well with other people. What is the etiquette in this industry? And it can vary, right? It may vary company by company or team by team. But how are you sort of interacting professionally and putting your best self forward? When you're engaging with anyone in these fields, right? What's the proper etiquette?
Mhm.
These are all things that you want to know and that you can start looking at right away. I know we talked about mentioned interviews a little bit, but I do want to emphasize informational interviews. Not all interviews are you sitting down with a recruiter or a hiring manager and trying to get a job. Informational interviews are where you seek out someone in the industry. Could be for a company you want to work for. It doesn't have to be. Could be anyone who has any sort of insight or experience that you might find valuable. Sit down with them over coffee and interview them, right, on their experience. I think a lot of times you'll find that people are more than happy to talk about themselves and talk about their experiences. So, doing sort of informal informational interviews can be a great source of knowledge, to getting some insight into the field and talking about your goals, because you never know who can help you.
Mhm.
A lot of online resources as well. A lot of this stuff you can find online. Where possible, I would always say, do the face-to-face, attend job fairs, informational interviews, all that stuff. But a lot of this stuff really is you can find online too. In addition to some of the websites we looked at earlier, the CompTIA website and things like that. Maryland, has a lot of, the Department of Labor has a lot of good resources. Anyone familiar with ONET? You can find sort of job descriptions that talk about what skills and education you need for certain roles. salary, salary information, things like that. It's a great resource. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Again, wealth of information about, in the field. Career One Stop, My Next Move, and the Maryland Workforce Exchange, if anyone's familiar with that, MWE. Not only do they have a job board, but they have training events and all kinds of good stuff too, that you can look on. So I would absolutely recommend that everyone take a look at some of these sites and you can start your research there for for an IT career. Now this one's important. As we mentioned at the very beginning, career planning is a process. It is not one and done. You don't just set your goals and then sort of and then not revisit them until you've reached them. That's not really how it works. Career planning is all about continuous learning, right? Even after you've achieved your goals, there's always something more to do, right? And especially with something like the IT industry, where there's new technologies and every day it seems like you want to make sure that you're staying updated with the trends in the IT industry. You might have a degree or certifications, but even that can change pretty quickly. And part of your career plan should be staying up to date within your industry. So in addition to all the resources we use, that's one way to stay up with trends. You can do things like practice coding and some of your technical skills, things like that. It's never a bad idea to obtain additional certifications to enhance your skills and become more specialized. Participating in workshops, maybe like this one, doing webinars, online classes, even if they don't necessarily lead to an official certification, is still a way to sort of keep your knowledge up to date and learn new skills. I think for most employers, but especially in the IT field, they're looking for people who do have that mindset of continuous learning and are always sort of intellectually curious and trying to learn new things. So attending these types of workshops is a way to show that that's you, right? We talked a little about LinkedIn, but there are a lot of professional organizations and online forums and things like that where you can connect with people in the industry. It doesn't necessarily have to be IT specific organizations. Something like, say, the Montgomery College Alumni Network would be would be considered, I'd say, a professional organization, and would have people working in your chosen field. So a lot of different opportunities, a lot of people who are absolutely out there who can help. But the last thing is, make sure that you're checking in with yourself. Are you on track, right? Pretty regularly, you want to go back and look at your career plan, examine your short and long-term goals, and see, is this still right for me? Do things need to change? Have circumstances changed for me that I need to change paths a little bit? Basically, do you feel that you're still on track, right? Because the more you do that, the easier it's going to be to sort of stick with your plan and get to where you want to go. So that's all I have. I'm happy to open it up to any questions as we wrap up here. I know that was a lot of information.
For our online attendees, if they have any questions, please post them at the chat. We also have Kunda, Emma, I'm sorry, from Career Catchers on the chat as well. She can answer any questions you may have.
I'm glad you asked.
I like technology, I like IT, but I also want to try and make it to transfer history. But I'm kind of all over the place, so I like a little bit of it. It's hard for me to stick to one area because I'm always fascinated with other areas. That's my
Sure. So I'm glad you asked, and I did want to sort of segue into that a little bit. Not to worry, if anyone has any other questions, we can get to those. But as I mentioned, I work for Career Catchers. We're a nonprofit organization that's partnered with Ignite Hub to provide exactly that, one-on-one career coaching to help you, answer all of those questions. So if you are interested in accessing our services, one, definitely check us out. Check out our website. It's www.careercatchers.org. But
we're going to have more information about how to sign up for these services in a minute.
Yes. So so you can, but you can set up an appointment with myself or one of our other coaches through the Ignite Hub, and we'll talk about that. Yeah.
We do have a question from Emily, who's online.
Okay.
And she's asking, how can I create a good impression with a hiring manager?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great question. And that's, that can be tough sometimes. So your first impression starts, a lot of times we think about making a good first impression at, say for an interview, say, right? But your first impression really starts before that, right? The moment you start to fill out an application for a job, that's really where that first impression starts. So things like having a resume that's sort of well organized and no errors, things like that. That presents your experience in the best light. That's kind of what gets you in the door, right? Doing the research on the company and even before you hit the interview, showing that you're sort of invested and sort of genuinely interested in this company, is a great, being enthusiastic is a great way to make a good impression. As far as sort of meeting someone in person, having a solid sort of elevator pitch, right? Who are you and what can you, why are you interested in this organization and what can you bring to that? These are all things we can work with you on, not to worry. Remaining professional, communicating professionally, all of these things, sort of go into making a good impression. But I think sort of bottom line, just sort of being enthusiastic and genuinely interested in the process and sort of what they have to say, I think is probably the biggest one. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Also, Emma, who's online, responded, understand the culture.
Yep.
Do your research with the interviewer, demonstrate relevant experience, and that's important, and be enthusiastic, be yourself,
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Emma. Do we have any other questions?
You're welcome.
Yes, yeah. Emily says thanks. So
great.
Thank you so much, Chris and Emma, for this wonderful presentation. We appreciate it. And like I said, so here at the Ignite Hub, we have partnered with Career Catchers to offer career coaching to anybody that is interested in doing this. And the best part is free of charge. It's completely free. So if you would like to schedule an appointment with Chris or one of the coaches at Career Catchers, you can do so by going to our website or by, I'm gonna post QR code here. Give me one sec. So you can see it now. If you go to that QR code, you can schedule an appointment, and the appointments are available here in person at the Ignite Hub, or you can also schedule a virtual appointment if you cannot attend in person. Good. So we are, if you go to our website, and I'll show you, actually, let me show you how that will do. So you will have to go to our website, which is ignitehubmc.com. Oops, sorry, I need to share the screen. My apologies.
This would be the location in person?
Yes, this is the location. This is the location that will be in person. So give me one sec. All right. Okay. So sorry, I'm trying to show it both at the here in the hub and online. So the people in line can see it, but unfortunately, people. Okay, hold on a sec. Okay, so this is our website, and you will go to programs, career coaching, and then there's the instructions right there. If you go down, you can see click here to make an appointment. This is the QR code that I showed a moment ago will take you to this website. And so here you can choose if you want to do it in person or virtually. So let's say that you want to do it in person. The calendar will tell you when our coaches are going to be here next time. So in this case, December 12th, if you look at it, right now looks like that there's the only appointment available is at 1:30 p.m. But it's usually from 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. But that's for in person. So if you want to do it again instead, um, but if these dates or times do not work for you, you can send us an email at this email address, and then we'll try to see how we can help with meeting outside these timeframes.
Yep.
So that's that. So last but not least, I would like for everybody to take a moment and please complete this survey. It helps us and it helps career catchers, do better events. Please let us know how did you like this? What would you like to see more of? But yeah, just if you can take out your phones and take a couple of minutes to complete this survey, that'll be great. I want to thank everybody who attended in person. Again, Chris, thank you very much. Emma, thank you very much. And for the people that join us online, thank you as well. I hope that you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Emily was asking with the career coaching, is that just a one-time thing? Or if she wanted multiple sessions, could she get that?
Emma, are you saying something? I
Yes.
see your mouth moving. I don't hear
Yes.
you though.
Oh,
Are you
no.
on mute?
Nope.
So what is the problem then? See the Not everything on. So do you want to type what you're saying, Emma? And then I can share with everybody. Why we can't hear that? Seems like other people can hear that. No, the other folks are can hear. Huh. Okay, we will send you the some more information in the email and also the link. Let me give you the link here. Yep, thank you so much for being here. Have a good day.
I know Charles just joined, but I know where, because he joined on. Oh.
Fit in different areas, but rather than government now, but concept, working with IT. Yeah, right. You know, a lot of overlap there. Even though I transported, there's a lot of inventory.
All right, I'm gonna log off. I think everybody's good. Have a great day.
You too.